So good to
Hello,
see
Amy.
you.
Good to see you too. Yeah,
Sorry,
I'm on the other side of the earth.
you are.
This is such a great way to communicate, isn't it? Thank goodness for technology.
It is. I've been missing our conversations, and I'm so glad that you've been able to organise a time for us to have those conversations that we used to have in person. So today is our first recorded chat. Jackie and I often go into very deep conversations, and we thought today some of the information that we share would be useful for you. So if you're watching, please listen along, but hopefully you'll get something out of this conversation. So what are we talking about today?
There's a lot of people are finding life hard at the moment, and it seems to be a lot of people are beating themselves up about the things that they have not achieved or the things that they have not done, and they feel a failure. And I think so that's a really good maybe starting point for us to explore that and get an idea of how we can resolve that in our own lives, because
Mm,
there's so much pressure I feel on us as human beings to get it right,
mm,
get life right, and that is right or this is wrong, and I've done this wrongly, or I've said this that shouldn't have happened, and we get ourselves into a real pickle when we believe that we failed in some way.
absolutely. Too, Jackie, I was thinking what influences that so much is social media and the
Yeah.
pressures of that. I think the fact that we're always comparing ourselves to somebody else or something else, or look how they're doing it. They're doing it better than me. They're smarter than me. They're richer than me, and that creates so much tension and stress, and comparison can really kind of almost stop us from achieving.
Yeah.
Which is the weird thing, because we kind of get too intimidated by others. So yeah, I think we've almost kind of created this ourselves, this comparison and the failure and success stories. And it's really time to kind of look at it in a deeper level. So then we can kind of pull it apart and really understand what is it? Like, where does it come from? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've been brought up in the whole system and the paradigm of we have to achieve. I mean, our schooling's set up for that. If you don't get good grades, then you can't go to college, or if you don't get good grades, you can't get a job. And so we've been programmed into believing that we have to be a success, because if we're not, then we're no good to society, or we have let somebody else down,
Mm,
whether that's our parents or our teachers or ourselves, because we can't get to where we thought we wanted to go to. So there's that constant feeling of pressure on ourselves to get somewhere else other than where we are right now. And
mm,
that runs in our programming all our life. And then we set ourselves up for failure, because how can we achieve all the things that we kind of want to achieve in life? I mean, because in life, there's so much choice now.
mm.
There's so much choice. We can do and be anything that we want, particularly when we hear that banded around, like, you can do anything you want. In fact, that phrase, it sets us up even more for failure, because you think, oh God, I've done nothing with my
Yes.
life. Or
Yeah.
I could have done this, I could have done that. And now I feel even more failed.
Mm, mm,
Um, so yeah, we're running around, and then we see, as you say, on social media, everybody else seems to be or appears to be having a really great life,
mm,
and
mm.
it sets us up even more of that feeling of failure. So
Yes.
it's like, well, what is failure? I mean, we know it's a false concept anyway, because it's what we've been programmed to believe. But what is the feeling of failure? What happens if we don't get where we want to go to,
Mm,
or
mm.
have what we want to have? What
Yeah.
is that feeling?
Yeah, exactly. Do just taking it in a step one back, like we'll define the failure, because I like that too. But just even taking a step back, there's so many people in the world that actually are so caught up in life and busyness that we actually don't even know what we want to achieve. Like, because we
Mm,
like, and we're like a scattergun approach almost. It's like, oh, I'll do a bit of this and I'll do a bit of that, and I'll try this, but because we keep kind of we're so busy, our minds are so caught up in trying to keep up with everything, technology, business, work, school, kids, whatever it is, that the pressures that we have, that we can't actually even focus enough to put our intention or our focus onto what we want to achieve. So therefore everything seems like a failure, because you try a little bit of that, but you're not focused, you're not intentional, you're not like, setting a goal, but you try a bit of this, and then it, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can't do anything, because I don't even know where to start. So yeah,
It's
so that's,
exhausting.
it is
It's
exhausting.
exhausting before you even begin, because your brain's going and you're being pulled in all these different directions. And then what you kind of feel like you really want to do with your life gets completely pushed under the carpet, and other priorities take over. And then we feel even more of a failure. So yeah, it's this vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, and that deflation that comes with feeling like a failure, and that heaviness and the energetics of failing, like even that's so toxic for our bodies to have that, like, kind of, what it's like, you're all about that too, but having that heaviness on us constantly, trying to walk through life, and even when we are really conscious of making a choice of a direction or trying to achieve something, that really burdens us to kind of step into that, doesn't it? It's holding us back all the time.
Yeah, this vicious cycle. And sometimes we just don't know how to get off it.
Yes.
And yeah, when we get that sense of failure and that heaviness, as you said, that I believe is what depression is. It's feeling like we just can't do anything about this anymore. We've lost ourselves, we've lost our ability to be able to move forward, and then we just go inward. And rather than really looking within and kind of really listening to our truth and what is it, take out all that rubbish, all that, hamster wheel stuff that we're doing in life, take all of that away and come back to self. What is it that I actually really want?
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be a thing. Like, we call achievement, like achieving something. Like you, Amy, you've just achieved this amazing swim, around the Great Keppels. I mean, that in itself is like, oh my goodness, when I saw you done that, I thought you are mad.
Yes.
But you are what? But also, what an achievement! You just did it.
Yes.
And you're so inspiring when you have a thought and then you go out and you do it. But I bet there's a lot of people that saw that and thought, oh, she's so good. Why can't I do that? Why am I, can I not get my act together and do the things I really, really want to do? But, we forget that the achievements that we want in life or have achieved in life doesn't necessarily need to be a thing. Or something that we tangibly have created. It doesn't have to be a tangible thing. It can just be a quality, like a quality that we've achieved. And I think, to be honest, this is what we're here for. This is really what we're here to do. It's not about achieving a thing so that we can get a success story or we can get love back, or we can get praise, or we can get, look at me, I'm pretty on social media, look at me, I'm brilliant, look at what I've done, woohoo. And then you get all that kind of, it's the ego getting all that kind of adoration back. Actually, what we're really here to do is to achieve the qualities that we have created by achieving that achievement. Like with you, Amy, with your swim, you have probably really mastered commitment, because you had to commit to train. And you've probably mastered, I don't know, you tell me, all the things that you have mastered in terms of a quality within yourself that you have achieved by doing this thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's the like the focus, I was talking about before, to achieve a focus. And I think that's where a lot of us go wrong with stuff in life. We are so distracted by all the pretty things out there, the media, the social media, all of that external stuff, that we just don't narrow in our focus enough on what we want in life. And I think once you kind of are able to understand that quality in yourself, to really just narrow things to what you are wanting, then you can kind of step into that more and more. And the more often you do it, the more empowered you get, and you're like, right, I've got that success within me of knowing that if I put my intention and my focus onto anything, I can do it. And I think that's one of the qualities that I love to really practice, because it takes practice. It's something that you need to work towards, and it can be, something very simple, very 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 small, and even just going really deep into that kind of, like you're saying, that's what we're here for. It's like looking and trying to really find that stillness and that like connection to your true self is really ultimately the real focus in life, isn't it? It's not achieving, like you said, the external stuff. It's the internal, achieving who you are, who you authentically am, and that in itself, and that was a focus for me. Like, that doesn't come naturally, and I'm sure for your journey as well, it was an intentional focus on discovering me and who I am, and all of the other conditioning and programming from our childhood and all that stuff had to kind of move away, and really lift off. So yeah, I think ultimately it's just being able to set a clear intention or a clear focus at what you want, and go for it, like do it, because it can really help with so many other things in your life as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's two strains to this, because what is it that's driving us? And I always ask this question. My question, if anybody knows the way that I work, is always why.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
when we ask ourselves, well, why do I do this? Then you get more of a truth or of an understanding of what drives you.
Mm.
So, success, we can call that word success, even though, I think that's a really, I don't know, I don't like the word success
Mm.
or achievements, because there is a lot of pressure on us to get there.
Yes.
But what is it the need? Why do you want to have this? Is it a need to be loved or liked,
Mm.
or to prove something that's still an issue within your life that you need healing?
True. Yeah.
Or is it something from deep within me, this real inner desire, this real knowing within, that I need to do this
Mm.
because this is my purpose?
Mm.
And if I didn't do this, something inside of me will die. It's that strong.
Yes.
Is it a false need or is it a true need? And as you say, Amy, we can only find this out when you look within, when you go deep within
Mm.
and find the truth of why you do this thing to get where you want to go.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And I came to the conclusion, actually, a while back, because I was always driven by success,
Mm.
because this was my programming. Got to succeed, otherwise you're a failure. And that was my pattern for a
Mm.
long, long time.
Mm.
And I got to a point, because now I'm all about freedom and being free, in your body, in your mind, in your life, having that sense of freedom. And I only got there when I really truly understood that true success is when I didn't need it anymore.
Mm. Yeah.
Or true achievement is when I didn't need to achieve. And
Mm.
then when you take that label or that struggle or that need to get somewhere,
Mm.
and you drop back into who you truly are.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like it's rather than the external need to do,
Mm-hmm.
you come back in to being me, me, me. And
Mm.
then from that desire bubbles up, and then you just do it, and it
Yeah.
comes naturally, and then there's a flow, and then there's a rhythm, and then suddenly coincidences happen, and then you take that next step, and it isn't hard. It's
Mm.
not hard to achieve. It all flows beautifully and wonderfully, and
Mm.
that is when you're in your true purpose.
Mm.
And then what your true purpose is all about, you will achieve, because you've got to that point of flow, and you've got to that point of no need,
Mm.
not
Mm.
needing it. And
Yeah.
that was a real breakthrough for me. It's like, why? I don't need this. I don't need success. and also coming to terms with the fact I'm not a failure.
Mm,
Just
mm,
because my expectation is another thing, expectations, never
mm,
have expectations, because I think, and also when you want to achieve something, you have a certain expectation.
mm,
And then when that expectation is not fulfilled, you feel a failure.
yes,
So it's take away the expectation as well.
yes.
You know, true success is when you don't have an expectation and all of a sudden you're there and you go, wow, that was easy.
Yes. Yes. And you can let go of that resistance of wanting or
Yeah.
needing or attaching to the outcomes of things, because it doesn't matter anymore. But just going even back a step with failure, I think so many of us are actually so scared of setting goals or trying to achieve anything because of the experience of failure that we've had in the past.
Mhm.
And we can't even start to even think about setting any goals or trying to go for anything or achieve anything, because we've been so hampered by the word failure and so constricted that we can't even try. We just give up. We're like, well, it's easier just to be who I am and not even worry about trying to do anything. And that's so debilitating for us, and so negative in that kind of that space that if I try at something, I'm just going to fail, and often that's just a subconscious programming that maybe we've from childhood, it's come all the way up through us, that maybe your teacher said, oh, you got an F on your report card, or oh, you failed that particular class, like that in itself is so detrimental to children that it stops them, doesn't it? It really stops them even growing and progressing, and because they're like, well, why even try? I don't know. Why should I try? That's really sad to see that.
And also excuses, we make excuses why not to do something, and we believe those excuses. But those excuses actually are to stop us from feeling the hurt and the pain when we fail. So again, we don't even try. And we'll make up in the amount of, I see this a lot where people go, oh, I can't.
Yes.
And I go, well, why can't you? Oh, because I can't. I haven't got enough money. I've got, kids to look after. I can't. And they're all the excuses under the sun. And that's quite handy to have those, because you believe it yourself that you can't. It's a good excuse not to do what you're here to do.
Yes.
And really step into that.
Yes.
And we believe them so strongly, these excuses, that does cripple us. And I always say, if you are suffering from depression or feeling stuck or feeling a sense of sadness or loss, or something's missing in your life, then that's a good place to look. It's, well, how am I stopping myself in life from really stepping into my potential and being the person I was born to be? And when you really kind of feel into the truth of what is it that I am here to be, not do, but be, who am I being?
Yes.
And then really step into that instead, because I think there's so much expectation and pressures on us to actually be as something big, when that's not the point. We're here to be big within our little selves. Be big in terms of who we are and what we can express, and of who we are, like your courage to do the things that you do. You have developed courage, and you really stepped into that, which has enabled you to do more things in your life. So maybe it's the quality that we really need to step into before we can actually put that being into the doing, because the quality is a being, and the actual achievement of that thing is the doing of it. So we get crippled when we don't believe that we are that thing, but we can't become that thing until we've mastered the quality behind the thing that we need to do. And I'm learning that too now. Like, I'm here in the UK because I'm looking after my mum, who now has Alzheimer's, and I have struggled so hard with that. But I realize now what it's doing is helping me to learn more, or dive deeper into the qualities I know are there, but they need strengthening. And one of those is patience.
Yeah.
pure patience and unconditional love and kindness.
Yes.
And I'm stepping further and further into that every single day. And I'm being challenged into it more and more. And the more that I really go in deeper into that fear of really stepping into my patience and allowing that patience to come up and that feeling of real unconditional love to come up, then it's easy.
Yes. Yes.
It only becomes a struggle when we think about how awful this is, awful my life is.
Yes.
Then we struggle.
Yeah, exactly. And any of those emotions that I think sometimes we find hard to tap into, patience and unconditional love, and even like, the failure stuff as well. I think it's important to point out, I think, Jackie, as well, that a lot of this stuff, it can be completely unconscious. We don't even know, like a lot of people don't know why they can't achieve, or why they can't feel unconditional love, or why they can't be patient, because it's so deep in them. And I think as adults, it's we get to that point in our lives, we start to kind of question stuff. We kind of like, why can't I be more like that? What is it? And I think we've got to also acknowledge that sometimes we need help to get through this stuff. We can't do it on our own, and to look deep down into our subconscious and our programming from our childhood, and kind of sit with somebody and say, hey, maybe this is why you can't love, because maybe as a child you weren't given that love and being able to express that anymore. So your amazing mind, your unconscious mind or your subconscious mind has actually protected you from ever having to feel that hurt or that pain or that suffering again. So I think we need to also be very mindful that yes, it's important that we go deep and look at this stuff, but sometimes we can't do it by ourselves. Because I remember for myself, for ages, that I sat with stuff and I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I know there's something not quite right, but I just couldn't dig it out myself. So yeah, I think that's important to share, that it might be worth, like that's the work that you and I do ultimately, not that I'm publicizing ourselves, or but call on a good friend, or even like sometimes just having a different point of view on something can really help you to step into whatever that emotion is that you're kind of blocking, or not allowing to kind of come through. So yeah.
Yeah. I always remember Eva Pericos. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she channeled all this. I'm going mumbo jumbo deep now, but these teachings from out there. And I always remember through the gateway, and this is like a poem, and it was something like, through the gateway of our pain, we will find our, or through the gateway of our pain, we will find our freedom. Through the gateway of feeling a hurt and separation, we will find the love. And through the gateway, so it's always the opposite of like what we're truly wanting in our lives, which is love, acceptance, and being fully accepted for who we are, warts and all. It's almost like we cannot feel that or find it until we go on the gateway, through the gateway of the opposite, because we won't even know that it's there if it's there. So it's almost like we do have to experience these adversities or the pain and the suffering to enable us to actually find truth, find love, and find compassion, find kindness. And that's why sometimes we question the cruelty in this world. And we're all going, the world's a horrible place, but actually if we can see it in the bigger picture of why we're on this journey, it's because we have to go through that gateway, and we have to find out what we are not before we can find out who we are. And sometimes we have to contract before we can expand. And so there is nothing wrong actually in the world or within you. There is no right, there is no wrong. All it is it's a journey towards finding ultimately what we all want, which is love,
Yes.
unconditional love.
Yes.
And we cannot actually find or experience that within ourselves, because we are human. We're not, we are spiritual beings in a human body, but to find that part of our spirit is sometimes to go through that gateway, to remind ourselves what we are not, to
Yes.
get back in touch with who we truly are.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And like, like the situation that you're in now with your mother, like that's a quite a sad situation, but it's teaching it. All of these things come into our lives for so much learning and growing, we could it definitely be on, the cause and effect. You could definitely be on the effect side, but you can start to kind of see, what is this teaching me? What is this hard time, this hard, journey all about? And that's what I experienced with my mum and dad as well. It was horrible to watch them suffering, but it definitely was a gateway for me to understand compassion and to understand really complete love, and it really, yeah, those sorts of things. I can definitely agree that it's a big part of our evolution and our growth of experiencing the duality of life, to understand that it's all okay. There's no, even if it's good or it's bad, it is what it is, and there's no need to be stuck in one way or the other, but we just got to learn to kind of ride with it and to expand and change and grow and take things forward, as opposed to getting stuck and holding back, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I think that is it. It was when we get stuck, that's when the problems start. And this is, I know, we both work in the industry of helping people get unstuck and moving forward into their true potential. But I see it, that so often. But we don't even know that we're stuck half the time, and it's being able to navigate out of that stuckness and not being frightened of actually being unstuck, because most of the time we're not actually frightened of our failures, we're actually frightened of our successes. And who would we be actually, or who would you be if you fully stepped into your greatness, fully stepped into your power? Who would you be? And sometimes we get frightened by that, because it means that we have to change a few things in our life.
No, I got frightened on that. Yeah, I got so frightened with that. It wasn't that long ago. It felt like it was only a few years ago that I was like, oh my God, what could that mean? And it's so strange to reflect on that now. And maybe this is a whole another conversation, but
we do that next time.
Yeah, maybe. But I do think that's a big part of it, isn't it? We get scared of our greatness, like, which sounds so silly, but it is really a real thing. And I see it with my clients, and I see it, in society. So yeah, that is definitely a good one.
Oh, so shall we leave it on that note? Remember that you are great. We all are great.
Absolutely.
And don't be frightened of it.
Yes, absolutely. And there's no such thing as a failure. I think that's a big message from our topic today is, and it's all about giving things a go, but being intentional and focused and putting, the energy in the right space, not coming from the ego, but coming from that deeper space is always the action that we'd like to move forward with anyway. So yeah, it's been so fun, Jackie. I love talking to you.
Yeah, I love talking to you. Let's do it again sometime.
We should. Yes. So good. All right. Well, thank you very much. And I'm going to stop the recording there.
All right. Lots of love. Lots of love.
All right. Take care.